I regret popping the packet. Story 1. When I was 19, I worked at a summer camp as a sort of supervisor of a group of counselors. There was an event coming up, and I had wanted to take a day off in order to attend. My boss insisted that it wasn't possible for me to take the day off, so I decided to call in sick because it ticked me off. Now, knowing that I would need a note from my physician, I actually went to the doctor the following day. My normal doctor was not in, and a nurse practitioner was filling in. She did a pretty thorough exam, poking and prodding my stomach and asking if it hurt, etc. I probably reacted in a couple of areas, trying to sell my illness. At this point, she recommends that I visit the ER because she believes I may have appendicitis. This means a better doctor's note, right? I'm in the ER. My entire family is there at this point. They're having me drink the barium milkshakes to prepare for imaging to see if I need to have an appendectomy. I have to drink 4 of these things over an hour. I'm on my last one, and the ER doc comes in and tells me he's going to have the surgeon come in to chat, knowing that they're going to take these pictures and everything will be fine. I'm not concerned. Well, the surgeon comes in after I finish the last drink. He says that he can see I'm in some pain, still selling it, to which I explained that we're going to take some pictures to see if it's legit, which will turn up negative. He then explains that he doesn't need the pictures and we should just go to surgery now. 10 years later, I'm appendix-free and to this day, still haven't told my family. Too long didn't read, I faked being sick to get back at my boss, and now I don't have an appendix. Well, there could be other stuff that you would have regretted losing in order just to get a day off. Again, it kind of speaks to our kind of work life and medical system that we have to have this type of subterfuge just to get a day off. Glad you don't have to worry about an appendix bursting on you, though. Story 2. Not myself, but my dad used to have a serious drinking problem. One night when I was in high school, I was driving home from work, and the town I lived in was very small. I ended up driving behind a truck that I was pretty certain was my dad's. Now, I should add that I was driving with my brights on because one of my headlights was messed up, and it wouldn't turn on without having the brights on. Well, I'm driving home thinking how funny it is that I ended up behind my dad when he slowed down and came to a complete stop at a curve where I couldn't get around him. I was very confused. He got out of his car and started screaming at me from his car. He's calling me all sorts of names and grabs a Frosty from Wendy's and throws it at my car. He ended up throwing it so hard it dented the middle of my hood. I was absolutely terrified. He had gotten mad like this before, and I seriously had no idea what I had done to tick him off. He starts walking towards my car, and even though he was a good distance away, I could see the look of rage in his eyes. I was physically shaken, so much so that I couldn't even manage to cry because I was so terrified. Turns out, my dad had gotten into an argument with a guy in the Wendy's parking lot who had a similar car, and since I had my brights on, he couldn't tell it was me, not to mention he was probably drunk. When he got to my door, I assume he planned on grabbing the dude out. He just stopped, frozen. He got back in his truck and drove away. When I got home, he walked into his room, grabbed a bag, and left to stay in a hotel and start getting help. He couldn't look me or my mother in the eye. Wow. I don't know if this is regret or not. I don't know. I don't think this could be qualified as regret. It sounds like this guy reached his rock bottom and just really started climbing back up. If all it took was something of a dented hood, thankfully this person wasn't injured in the process, then it's kind of a win here. What do you think? Story 3. Didn't say goodbye to my mom the last time I ever saw her. Wished in my head she'd perish. Only because I was ticked off she and my brother were going to Fiji without me, and I was stuck with having to go to work. but I didn't realize it was because her radiation therapy hadn't worked and she was pretty much going home to pass away. I had no idea it had progressed to that stage, so when she came to hug me, I turned away, so she gave me a side hug. Well, that was the best she could do, and she was pretty weak at that stage. I still feel like the smeggiest person alive thinking about her face that morning and her little bony frame pressed up against me. Edit. Thanks for the nice comments, guys. I didn't realize anyone was going to take any interest in my story. I explained below a bit more about the situation in a reply to someone. I also should have explained that I guess my mom didn't tell me herself because probably she was a super positive kind of person. In the last couple of months before she passed, she was still telling me her plans about what she was going to be doing. In her words, when I get better. She had plans for where she was going to go forward with her career. She had a psychology degree but worked with disabled people in a respite center. It didn't seem like she could pass away to me, really. That added to the shock, I guess. I have that. My mom has not had any real heavy physical problems or any sickness or anything. But I always make sure I tell her I love her and that I'm going to miss her when I go away after I visit. So it's something that I'm kind of aware of as everyone is getting on in years. That would just be awful to have that kind of response after doing that kind of thing to your mom. Story 4. Punched a cop in the nose and broke it. It was instinctual after having a fracking horrible day, coupled with some creepy fracker following me for 4 blocks. I thought it was the creeper, not the cop I hit, when I felt a heavy hand on my shoulder. The cop was freaking out on the ground, and his partner pulled his pistol on me, yelling to put my hands up. I had to explain why that mistake happened. Worked okay, but had to go to the police station to explain my story. Found out the cop was about to ask me if I noticed my wallet was about to fall out of my pocket. Ends up with the broken-nosed cop saying it was okay and that it would be let go if I bought him the burgers he was on his way to get. His grin was comedy gold. Ended up buying burgers for the whole department. That was expensive. Edit. Yeah, I was really lucky. This happened when I was 18 and I'm 21 now. If it helps, white as can be. For a broke college student, over $250 for burgers is a bit steep. I'm just happy it all ended on a positive note. My parents don't know, and probably never will. Thank the heavens or whatever other deity. Let's go with Odin. Thanks, Odin. Story 5. I got angry at someone who was born and proceeded to treat them like smeg for almost 8 years. I was 8 or something when my cousin was born. When he got older, he was always over here. I don't know why I hated my little cousin so much. He was a great kid. I just had this rage. It would manifest in doing tiny little things to hurt him, maybe trip him, or would just destroy him repeatedly in video games or something. I also used to glare at him a lot when he wasn't looking. When he was about 8, and I was 16 or so, I had to watch him for a little bit, and he wanted to go outside and play with his stupid little golf set, but all I wanted to do was stay in the house and play video games. He dragged me out. He gave me a turn, and I accidentally hit him on the head when I went to swing. And by accidentally, I mean completely on purpose, but looked like it was an accident. So I hit him. He broke down crying, had a small gash on his head. I took him into the house and cleaned his cut, and indifferent to his crying, I just coldly said, "It was an accident." Then he replies through tears, "It's okay. I know you wouldn't hit me on purpose." That's when it hit me. Almost like I hit him. That's when I realized what a fracking smeggy human being I had been. I treated him like he was fracking trash. What the frack was I doing? Why the frack was I so angry? After that, it just went away, and I'd say that we've been pretty much best friends since then. Story 6. I was a little kid around 8 years old, and I got into a fight with my sister. I got really ticked off and threw one of those mini CDs at her in a rage. It was a GameCube game, I think. It curved perfectly through the air and hit her right between the eyes. I'm laughing about it now, but she had a scar for a while. Similar story? I was sitting on my bed reading a magazine, and my sister came up to my doorway and started bugging me. I told her if she didn't quit, I'd throw the magazine at her. Now, you wouldn't think a magazine is aerodynamic enough to be thrown accurately 20 feet, or at least not do any damage once it gets there. Anyway, she continued to pester me, doing so with the door cracked open just an inch. I sat up on my bed, threw that magazine like a ninja star straight through the crack in the door and hit her squarely between the eyes. The spine left a red mark and she was hurt a little, and we both started laughing because neither of us could believe what just happened. I'm a younger sibling, and that in the previous story just reminds me of the attitude the older sibling has when they know they've gone too far and actually hurt you a bit. They try to convince you that, oh, it was an accident. It was an accident. No, you're okay. You're okay. You don't have to tell anyone. It's okay. We were introduced to gaslighting very early on. And I bet that if you ask your older sibling what gaslighting is, they probably wouldn't be able to give you a definition. Irony. Story 7. I was in my dorm room at college. I was tubby and a bit of a loser. I played a lot of video games by myself. Anyway, my roommate and his friends always made fun of me, but one day it was especially bad. I tried ignoring them, but when he sprayed water on me, I just snapped and threw a pair of scissors at him. They got lodged in his arm. Someone else was filming it, and of course it ended up on the internet. They immediately reported me to campus security, parents were called, lawyers got involved. Long story short, the stupid fracker taping it didn't delete it. Once the college staff and lawyers saw the video, they advised the frackers to drop it. Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed, so I moved to a single room. Nobody else really liked those frackers either, so I enjoyed a small amount of fame for a couple of weeks. But since nobody really liked me either, I was quickly forgotten. Story 8. In my short-tempered teenage years, me and Pops got into a massive argument. I don't remember what, but thinking about it now, it was probably petty. In my fit of rage, I decided to punch a tree. I didn't think it was that hard of a punch until my hand was about the size of an eggplant. Went into the house and told my dad my hand got caught in the garage door, and off we went to the hospital. The first words out of the doctor's mouth after the x-ray, "Looks like your son has a boxing fracture." After the surgery, 6 weeks in a hand cast, a month of physical therapy, 2 weeks of my pops not talking to me and the family calling me Samson, I learned to control my temper and not my temper control me. Edit. I'm more of a console guy, but will definitely check out Minecraft. Story 9. When I was 14, my dad forgot to pick me up after school, and he told me to find my own way home. I walked approximately 8.5 miles to get to my house. Then he wouldn't let me in. I was so angry, I went to my neighbor's house. A kid in the same grade as me lived there, Mike, and when I told him what happened, he said I could come in. He had an older brother who smoked cigarettes and weed. I had never before smoked or drank, etc. But I was mad. Really mad. We stole all his smeg, got high, and smoked all night in Mike's bedroom. Consequences? 11 years later, I still smoke cigarettes, dealing with cancer. Worst decision ever. All because I was angry with my dad. No, I don't think we can put this solely on this person. A dad that forgets to pick him up, tells him to find his own way home, has him walking over 8 miles, then not letting him in? No. We do not place this blame on this kid, a 14-year-old kid who's still trying to figure things out and deal with their emotions. No, I don't think that's right. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Story 10. My older sister was teasing me mercilessly when I was about 8 years old. I was stewing over it for about an hour and decided that the best revenge would be to destroy her favorite blanket that our mother had made by hand, one for her, one for me, cut from the same cloth. I grabbed her blanket and a pair of scissors and proceeded to cut the blankie to ribbons in front of her. She started laughing hysterically, which was not the reaction that I expected. I looked at what was left of the blanket and saw my initials on it and realized that I had mistakenly destroyed my favorite blankie. Story 11. I was camping at the lake, drinking a few beers and just having an all-around good time with my buddies and some girls. Out of nowhere, some douche nozzle comes up and starts harassing my buddy's girl. He's a pretty small guy who is also a pacifist. I'm a big dude that loves to fight. I asked douche nozzle to leave, and he said, "You gonna make me?" And it's the F slur here. I'm not gonna say it. I got really ticked, blacked out, and apparently threw douche nozzle butt first into our campfire. Too long didn't read? I throw people into fires when I get mad. Story 12. I was probably around 12. My older sister had a friend over and was being really mean to me. She was in her room with the door shut, so I took some string and tied her doorknob to mine across the hall so she couldn't open it. Of course, right after I did that, she knocked a bottle of nail polish remover onto a candle and lit her carpet on fire. Yes, I cut the string. No, they weren't hurt. Her friend actually told her to stop being so mean to me, but the next time I'm 12 and upset, I'll remember that teenagers aren't very responsible with fire. Story 13. I was playing chess with my mom. I was in my elementary school's chess club at the time, so I thought I was pretty hot smeg. I was 10, however, and she was an adult, so she was beating my butt without effort. I was a small jerkwad, so it didn't take long for me to reach my 10-year-old boiling point. In a fit of misplaced child rage, I picked up one of her knights and I bit it. It was a cheap plastic set, so I managed to take a chip out of it. The knight remains chipped, and to this day, whenever I get upset about something, Mom just says, "Don't bite the pony." Story 14. In an argument with my now wife at our first apartment, being alpha as frack, decided it was best to show her my love by punching a wall. Two things. 1. I had to repair the hole in the wall. 2. I found a stud. Is this sort of thing learned? My dad never hit me, but when I really set him off, would have to get really bad, he would punch walls or break chairs, etc. Then, when I found myself old enough to get ticked off at things, I would do the same. Story 15. I was eating some tuna after having a very bad day. My younger brother kept teasing me for something I don't remember now and wouldn't shut up after I told him to. All of a sudden, I snap, grab my fork, and launch it at him. Fork hits him in the head. 5 seconds later, blood starts coming out of his head with increasing intensity. Consequences? A lesson. If you're having a bad day, don't take it out on others, especially your family, which is the only group of guys that really give a smeg about you. Plus, for life scar on his head. Story 16. A girl chased me out of a bar after an argument we'd gotten into. Didn't know she was following me until she punched me in the back of my head, turned around, and elbowed her. I went to jail for that because I stayed till the cops arrived to give my side of the story. I had to take anger management classes and pay for the insurance of her injury, emergency room visit prescribing her ibuprofen, and now I have to show future employers a slip showing my case was dismissed. Story 17. Throwing my phone because I was arguing with the Lenovo customer support about the warranty on my broken laptop. The phone hit the TV, which cracked the screen on the phone and TV. Now that I'm using Internet Explorer on a library computer, I regret everything. I can totally see that happening because phones are just so perfect for throwing in anger. I can't even remember all the times I got upset after a conversation and then just threw the phone on the table, until it bounced back one day and cracked the mirror. Story 18. When I was a kid, probably around 12, I had an argument with my sister and I punched her in the mouth really hard for a 12-year-old. I immediately felt bad for what I did. She started bleeding and crying. I told her I was so very sorry that it would never happen again. She stopped crying and didn't tell anybody what happened, and of course, it never happened again. I love you, sis. Thanks for not telling Mom and Dad. Story 19. I confronted my then-wife's lover, and he said, "Yeah, I'm smashing her. What are you gonna do about it?" It was dark, and I don't think he had seen the golf club that was right next to me. I beat him severely and didn't stop until I heard sirens. I was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Edit. Obligatory thanks for the gold. I sincerely hope it was for starting such an interesting conversation and answering all these questions, and not for committing a violent crime. Story 20. Telling a judge, whatever, frack this court and the city of Richmond. Consequence? 30 days in jail for a contempt of court charge. Edit. Richmond, Virginia, to be clear. On a list of things not to say in court, that would be right up there. Story 21. Found out a good friend intimately violated my little sister. Him 16, her 9. I was around 12 at the time and walked to his house. When he answered, I hit him in the head with a metal bat. Ding! Consequence for him, some juvie time plus intimate offender smeg. Mine was being depressed and feeling like I failed my family, but smeg, the sound of the ding from the bat on his head kept me going. Story 22. I was making food, got angry, stubbed my toe on a salad bowl that was on the floor for some reason, kicked said salad bowl out of the way, got even angrier, went to leave, stubbed toe on salad bowl again, picked up salad bowl, smashed salad bowl. Cue 3 hours of my 4-year-old sister crying and screaming, saying, "You unalived my favorite salad bowl!" Story 23. Car broke down for the 20th time. Barely made it back into the driveway. No money for repairs. Angrily kick the rear of the car, smashing the taillight. Yell at my own stupidity and throw the keys far into the tree line. Immediately had to go find them because my house keys were also on there. Story 24. I was getting a ride to school and I saw my bully, at the time, riding his bike, so I opened the car door, hitting him. The consequences were I had to pay all his medical bills, and thank deity he didn't press charges. Story 25. Picked a fight with a SWAT team. In my defense, the only reason I was so ticked off was because of the Adderall I was prescribed. I was shot in the left testicle with a beanbag round and was carted off to a funny farm for half a year. Story 26. Worst decision I ever made while angry? Telling a self-unaliving friend he was a wuss and just wanted sympathy, so as usual, like most people, turned to self-unaliving for that sympathy. Consequences? I saw a good friend blow his brains out that day. Story 27. In the heat of anger, what was the worst decision you've made? What were the consequences? Sounds like the question for this whole video, really. Story 28. After a series of frustrating events, frack it. Today's a good day to try a cigarette. Still trying to quit 9 years later. Story 29. Got into a drunken fight with wife, drove off angrily, crashed into a tree, spent a long time in intensive care, almost passed away, face permanently disfigured. Story 30. When I was 14, I kicked my dog. It didn't hurt her badly. She licked me afterward. I can't think of anything I've ever done in anger that I regretted as much or for so long. Story 31. In a heated argument with my mom, I shouted, "Suck my tool!" Instantly regretted that. Story 32. Punching a huge dent in the side of the refrigerator. I am not a smart man.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.